Good morning, and welcome to Metron. Metron is measure or sphere of influence, and we want to help you find your Metron. Through motivation, enlightenment, transcendence, renewal, outreach, and networking. Today is your day to find your Metron, and we hope you enjoy the service.
Good morning. Welcome to Metron. We're glad that you're here. Give yourselves a hand for being here. Beautiful Metronites, you Metronians from the planet Metron. I don't know, just making up stuff. I don't know. I don't think internet people are hearing us right now. We're having a little bit of a disconnect, but I'm sure it will get remedied. I'm assuming this will be on the YouTube and on the podcast. So please look around and see that somebody you haven't spoken to yet and say hello to them. If it's somebody you haven't met, please introduce yourself, and then you may be seated on this beautiful day. And those of you that are, you can be seated. Those of you that are listening to the podcast, I really hope you discover the world of podcasts. They're really cool. I got a new car, and it's the dashboard, which most new models do this. The dashboard syncs up with your apps on your phone, and so there's all these really cool podcasts. Like they'll show you like what the top 10 is. It's really, and they're pretty current. And I'm even thinking, and I'm talking to Charles about it. I know we do a Metron podcast, but if I could get a regular place set up, I would do a personal one because they're real cool to do, and they can be any length. You don't have to. You can go as long or as short as you want. So that's a possibility. Let me get you caught up on a few things. First of all, it is September. We're not doing an Artist of the Month this month. We're continuing the meditation was such a success that I don't want to break that flow yet. I'm not saying we're not going to have music anymore. I'm just saying for right now, this is really where I want to put the focus. And I love the feedback that you've given. The reason when I post a quote on a blog, the reason I just use your initials is because I haven't individually asked your permission to use it, so I like to give you some anonymity. But I really do love the feedback and the stuff that people said about the meditation. I knew it was going to be good, but I was pleasantly surprised with how good it turned out. Our outreach for this month is we're going to be given to the victims of Hurricane Harvey. And I know Houston's not the only place that was affected, but it was where it got the main part of it. And so I posted something about that, and then people started inboxing me asking where to bring the stuff. I said, no, I'm not driving, so I don't know where to take stuff. I'm not driving down to Houston. We've always given, those of you that know even from Church in the Now, we've always given through Red Cross. They're just a great organization, vetted. It's just anytime you look for reputable charities, they're always at the top of the list because they know what they're doing. So this month we will give to Red Cross for Hurricane Harvey relief. They do a better job of it. I noticed even Beck, that used to come here, she had posted something because she works with the homeless, and she posted something a few days ago. She said, in one day I've watched 4 different church groups come out to this corner and just do a feeding thing, and it's so disorganized, people don't realize, they think they're doing a good job, but there's all this food, it attracts vermin, people don't know what to do, it's a mess. She said it would work so much better if you would find an organization that's doing this, that knows how to do it, knows how to do a feeding, and support that, which is why we always, it's good to do hands-on, but I always think you find more success when you hook up with people that's what they're doing all the time and know how to do it, and they're not jerked around emotionally. Like if you don't see it all the time, you're very, like if you live where I live, homeless people are in perspective. You know what I mean? Like some guy comes up to me and asks for something like, dude, I just gave you money night before last, you're going to have to wait. We got out, a guy was waiting on us. We got out of the Uber yesterday. Ken just handed him the money. It's just easier because he's at my front door like, here, go get something. But anyway, that's where that's going to go this week. I don't have a event planned yet. I actually was wanting to do a day when we go to the varsity, but I don't know if I'm sending mixed signals because I'm trying to encourage you to eat healthier. And then I send you the varsity, like, here, have a cigarette too. Like, that's like, I don't know. Everything's in flux right now. Like, in October, I was going to take you to Oakland Cemetery, but there's like a big Confederate memorial there, and I just thought, it's not I don't want to get stuff started. It's just like, I didn't put it there. I'm just trying to show you a cemetery, but maybe let's wait on that. You know, it's like, it's interesting times we live in. You know, with every event you want to do, you go, no, we better not do that because of that, whatever. So basically the event is, I'm going to shake your hand out in the lobby. There's our event. No, we'll do something. We are going to go, I think next month, I may want to go, we got to do a fall thing because I'm all about the fall. So I think I might want to go back to Dillard House. We did that a couple of years ago. But it really is good there. I'd like to. We might go back there. Anyway, let me. This is what I want to do this month. I am doing a teaching series, but I want to. I want the teaching to sort of revolve around the meditation. Okay, like the two things are not disconnected. I'm still doing the meditation, but it's for a reason. I think sometimes you move a meditation in a certain direction. You can turn that off. But, and it seems like I had so many interesting conversations. Even Lana was downtown this week, and she may be streaming today. She's been watching the meditation, and she was even telling me about, I never read this before, but the name of God, Yahweh, that's supposed to be like you're not supposed to say it out loud. It's because it was a breath exercise. It was Yahweh. It was like there was a way that you breathed it. And even though they didn't use the word meditation, that's what they were doing. That's why you didn't say the name of God, because it was too holy to be put into a word. It was put into a breath. I thought it was really interesting. Lana's always she just read 7 books, as she's telling you about. I asked her, I said, Lana, were you like an amazing student? And she was, you know. So anyway, we're going to revolve all around that. But let me go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and get into the teaching part of it. This is kind of the way I'm going to do it this month, since I'm not doing music and then an outline. And we're all to a place now. I don't have to explain stuff to you. I mean, you get it. I think now we're so evolved. You're pretty much psyched and prepared for what I'm going to do because the same thing's already been happening in your life. I mean, don't you notice that? It's like it just becomes more and more confirmation. Last week was really good. Didn't you like Chris? You know, it was really interesting. Remember, he pointed in this direction and said about somebody's father passing, and one of our first-time visitors, his father had passed that morning. He didn't even know it yet. And it's just a lot of synchronicity. I liked him a lot. I had never met him till he got here, but it was that was definitely a good connection. And Zach, I'm sure Zach's watching, and he's always great. He's such a good guy, and I love connecting with people who have something to say. You know, when somebody says you need to call this guy, he's on fire for Jesus. I'm like, does he know anything? Has he got anything to say? I mean, I love Jesus, but I mean, just because he's on fire for Jesus, I might find that obnoxious. So I want to know, does he know something? Has he got something to say that? I love when somebody tells you something, you go, oh, wow, okay, now that I didn't know, or I didn't know that I knew it. So we're going to stay in all that kind of flow. So let me start the teaching part, and I guess this is where we'll start the podcast. Our series title for this month nearly sounds like I'm talking about two different things. I'm using I like to use the phrase letting go. But then the rest of the title is finding harmony in your life by addressing your unfinished business. It nearly sounds like I'm talking about two different things, because letting go means let it go. Addressing something means holding on. I think everything is about balance. You know, I was thinking, looking at all the hurricane stuff, you know, I've watched for hours. I thought it's amazing that there are parts of the world where there's severe drought and like in California, it's so dry that the wildfires is a big issue, and it's all about balance. Too much water isn't good. Too little water isn't good. Like both things are devastating. This is a really simplistic question, but I was listening to this podcast about how cities are planned, and the two men from New York that founded Houston, the way they did it, they actually built it on the edge of a swamp, so it's very prone to floods anyway. Plus, there's no zoning in Houston. That's one reason it was such a boom town. You go to Houston, you see a strip club next to a church, because you don't see that in Atlanta because everything's zoned. But that's why it grew fast, but that's also why it has horrible like drainage and stuff's been built on wetlands and all that kind of stuff. Of course, I noticed, the usual people blaming Obama and gay people for the for the hurricane. I'm like, wow, we are really organized. Our evil plot to bring about the hurricanes right on schedule. We're like, wait for it. Thank you, President Obama. It's all working. That's sarcasm. Anyway, it is funny to me that all the people that said Katrina was the wrath of God on New Orleans for the sin, I'm like, well, what do you think? So you think, what was Houston then? If you think Katrina was the wrath of God, then what's that about? Houston's got the biggest churches in the world there. Y'all saw my meme of Medea with a gun saying, say Joel Osteen one more time. Yeah. That was my favorite meme. That's a clean one. I don't know why I just wanted it out of the shot. It's so ridiculous. I'm so over like the evangelicals in Nashville last week, when they should be worrying about people who don't have homes to live in. They decided to bash gay people, and people were writing me, are you gonna say something about what do they call it, the Nashville statement or something? I said, no, it's so irrelevant. Of course that's what they're going to say. I live in a different reality. I don't have time to deal with that business, whatever. And so anyway, but thinking about the too much water, too little water, everything's about balance. Even what we talked about last week about, and I believe you're mature enough to understand this, you embrace the dark with the light. In other words, you don't see the light without the dark. That's why just positive thinking alone doesn't make your life better. I'm all about being positive, but I'm much more about just being realistic and noticing, where the blessings are, what's good and praiseworthy and everything, but you're not in denial over the negative stuff. That's why I'm glad that we can make declarations here, but also send relief to the victims of the hurricane, because we're cognizant of the fact that there are people who are suffering. And I am aware of it. Even, I got a new car last week, and I was going to post a picture of it, but I thought, it doesn't feel appropriate right now when people are on top of their roofs and have just lost everything. I did, a few days later, I did post pictures of my loft because the kids were coming over and we got it really cleaned up. And I thought, not that it's filthy otherwise, but you know what I mean. There's clean, and then there's company clean. And Jonah has a new girlfriend, and I thought he was bringing her over, and, there's a way I want it to be. And I thought, wow, it looks like this. Daddy's going to take some pictures. But anyway, the reason I'm talking about letting go and addressing is I think it is for lack of a better phrase, balancing act. We're constantly letting go. I don't know if this is happening with you, but, thank God for prosperity and all that. That's great. But I'm at a time in my life, not to have less money, but just to simplify my life. Do you know what I mean? And if I have money, I want to use it for things that I really care about, not just dumb stuff, And to me, the more stuff you have to take care of, it's just more. It's more stuff to take care of. You know, I mean, I'm in a mode in my life where I want to simplify as much as possible. I don't know, Avery, if you read this in a book or whatever you were telling me about going through your house and just deciding what actually brings you joy, and if it doesn't, get it out of your house. Even any of you that have ever studied feng shui, there is something to that. There's something about taking things out of your environment that have negative energy on it. And some people say, "Oh, that sounds too, spacey or whatever." I don't think so. And I like things to be streamlined. And same thing with emotional baggage. It was interesting this morning. I've got 3 quotes in a scripture to show you, but confirmation is always interesting to me. And one of the 2 channels that I watch pretty much. I don't know why I have this big cable package where I have 10 billion channels because I only watch 2. I wish they had like a menu where you could pick, I just want these 4 channels that are the only ones I watch, and I don't need the cooking network and, all this. Yeah, why don't somebody do that? Oh, what I was going to say a minute ago, I was thinking watching, this sounds like a probably naive question, but I thought with some of these, especially cities that are in the path of hurricanes, I'm surprised somebody hasn't worked out some kind of subterranean drainage system, like an underground elaborate drainage system that would take it out to the desert, where it's really needed. Like if there's that much water coming in, why couldn't they pipe it out to, make gardens in Arizona or something? Has nobody thought of that? I need to call somebody. Hey, y'all, send that water out where it's dry. Thank you. My work here is done. All right, now you got to turn that back on. I'm sorry. I don't know if I'm having. Do men have menopause? I'm having hot flashes. You better get that thumb out of his face. I didn't see that. Ernie. Y'all crack me up is what y'all do. Anyway, so this morning I was watching one of the channels I watch a lot is TCM. I love old movies, and Ken, he didn't sign up for this when we got together, but he's kind of in a nonstop cinema school. Because when we watch stuff, and he gets interested in it. I tell him, let me tell you what. Anyway, this morning, The Snake Pit was on with Olivia de Havilland. It was made in 1948, and it's kind of, Hollywood had a sort of a simplistic approach to mental illness with things like Three Faces of Eve. A lot of these movies that dealt with a very simplistic approach that's pretty much abandoned now by the psychological world. It was, like for instance, it's called a snake pit because it was the worst possible stereotypes of what people think a mental hospital is like. It's actually a good movie, and I'm a big Olivia de Havilland fan, but in the movie, they figure out what kind of pushed her over the edge and made her snap, and it was a childhood thing where she didn't feel like her. They showed flashbacks of when she was a kid, and Natalie Schafer that played Mrs. Howell on Gilligan's Island, she played her mother in the movie. This is like 20 years before Gilligan's Island. I always have to tell, I know you didn't ask for that part, but I live to teach. Anyway, she felt like her dad loved her more than her mom loved her, but then one day the dad sided with the mom on something, and it made the little girl feel really abandoned, like he wasn't her hero anymore. And the dad had been in the war, and she had this like soldier doll that to her represented her father when he was deployed. So she shows I forgot who the little girl was. She's a good little actress for the 40s. So she takes the doll, and she's she's a kid. She's really mad at the doll, and she smashes it to bits. And like a couple of days later, her dad died. So in her childish mind, she felt like she had killed him. And so the doctor, of course, this doctor, he's got so many answers. Like, there's no doctor in the world that, he's telling her. And then the other guy you dated he was sort of like the authoritarian part of it. I'm like, doctor, you don't know that much. And of course, there's a big painting of Sigmund Freud over his shoulder. So this is in the 40s when Freudian psychology was the the norm. Now everybody just medicates you. You know, you go and say, I'm sad, and, you know, they just give you dope. I mean, people don't try to fix things anymore. But and then this was a very simplistic approach. It's like she figured that out, and then she got out of the hospital. One thing that I thought was interesting about it, and I felt it was a confirmation to me saying letting go and addressing unfinished business, is when he's explaining to her kind of what caused her mental illness, he says, so she starts saying, so is that why I'm this way? Is this why this? Or whatever. And he says, well, it's like this. And he stands up, he walks across the office, and he turns the light off. And he says, we're in the darkness, and you can't see where I am. But if I show you where the light switch is, and he flips it on, he said, you can see this is what you need to move toward. And I thought, well, that's actually a pretty good visual, because it's not like you're going to find this thing in your life that is going to be well, now I'm okay. Now that I learned this, I'm okay. But there is a continuing discovery of why you got so angry at something, or why the same thing keeps happening in a relationship over and over again, or why certain things trigger you, or whatever. I think that is actually a positive thing to try to figure out, why did that happen? Like, have you ever had an argument with somebody and you realize, I'm not really arguing with you, I'm arguing with something else, some ghost from my past. To make my point, let me show you this first quote, if you would put that up there, because I think this kind of says what I'm trying to say, by Brian Tracy. It says, winding up unfinished business with another person can give you a great burst of positive energy, which it can. Show me the second one, please. By Shannon Alder, I've quoted her a lot. This is the one I really like. It says, you will never say goodbye to the past until you understand why the flashbacks haunt you. Now that, I think, is a valid point. Why is it that somebody can push your emotional buttons so easily? You know, if you have somebody in your life that you're kind of codependent with, that you're not going to be able to get rid of, it's not like somebody you could divorce or whatever, it may be a family member, then you have to figure out a way, this is the way they are. So I've got to figure out a way for them not to get inside my head. You know, before the phone call comes and I just get sucked into the vortex of having this same conversation. This isn't even us as adults talking. This is still us as children. Like even this morning, I'd mentioned to you, my mom apparently has shingles. And so my older cousin, who's really, she's more like an aunt to me. She's kind of in my mom's age group. She texted me immediately and telling me, you need to take your mom to the doctor. You need to whatever. And part of me wants to go, I know what shingles, I'm a grandfather, I'm getting to it. But in her mind, I'm her little cousin, Jimmy Earl, who doesn't know to be on top of things. And I understand that's the dynamic. She doesn't think of me as the person I am now. So I have to just, it makes it better for me. Like, for instance, we've gone out of town before and rented a convertible. We take a picture of it, and immediately people on there, y'all need to be wearing sunblock. I'm like, really? Sunblock? We've never heard of that. You want to go, we're both grandfathers. We know what flipping sunblock is. Just either like or, move on. You don't need to lecture me about skincare. It's a picture. We're not like baking in the sun. We walked out and took a picture, and suddenly I've got 14 grannies telling me, y'all need to be wearing sunblock. Ugh. The proper response is, oh, what a cool car. I hope y'all have a great time. Y'all ever heard of sunblock? Soonbloke? What? I've never heard of such a thing. But it helps you not to be too touchy if you understand this is why this person is saying this to you. Like one time I said something like that to my mom. I said, it's crazy how many people will tell me very obvious things, like you need to be wearing sunblock or whatever. She said, everybody wants to take care of you. Everybody wants to feel like they're connected to you or whatever. I said, well, I know, but they should just say, great car. I know what sunblock is. Sorry. Start the meditation. We're getting to it. And the point is, like for instance, most of the time when I counsel, I've counseled some of you recently in a Starbucks, and I like it better than having an office. I could afford to get office space. Even Dr. Piazza over here at Virginia Highland Church, he called me one day. He said, "Look, if you want office, I'll give you free office space here. You have your own key or whatever." I had an office for 30 years, actually 35 years before that when I worked at Faith Memorial. There's something about an office that, at this point in my life, is too authoritarian. Like, people used to come and sit down and burst into tears. And I would say, "Why are you crying?" "I don't know, I just feel so intimidated to be in your office." And I would think, this isn't about me. This is about years of you being in the principal's office and issues you have with authority figures or whatever. I'd much rather get a cup of coffee and sit across the table from you eye to eye and not have this thing where I'm behind a desk and I'm here and you're there. Nothing wrong with that. I just already did that for years. And that's not the energy I like to project anymore. I just think it's not bad. It's just over. Honestly, with technology now, most people can, this might sound superficial, but most stuff can be handled in a text. It really can. Most people can say, "Hey, I'm thinking about this, blah, blah, blah." You text them back. Okay, that's probably what I should do. You didn't have to get in a car and drive an hour to sit in an office and try to think of something to talk about for an hour. And if you want that, I can do it. But I'm just saying, a lot of stuff, it's just a different world we live in, and you have to constantly update. I was thinking the other day, if you have apps on your smartphone, don't you notice that every few days you have to update them? I mean, I don't know who's working on these apps 24 hours a day. I'm like, I just upgraded or updated or whatever. But it just shows you that technology has to stay in the now. Technology is now. So if that's true for technology, I know it's true in the emotional. You have to constantly update. Like, I can look back over years of being a pastor, and I can tell you, this week, 2 things I was happy for. I was happy my name wasn't Harvey. I always feel bad for whoever's name actually was Katrina during Katrina, because that's got to be pretty rough. At least now they alternated male and female names. Back in the day it was all women, that was a little misogynistic. But then we figured out men can be hurricanes too. Oh, we're so honored. Thank you. But and I was glad I wasn't a megachurch pastor. Woo, Lord. Not that my church is as big as Joel Osteen's, but I'm reading about him so much, I'm like, I'm so happy I be in a little theater in Midtown. Like I remember when we used to, when we had we let all the high schools use our facility for free. And then I'd go on the Rockdale Citizen blog, and they'd be talking about, that man makes so much money off these graduations, and I can't believe it's a racket that he's in. I'm like, make money? Just the paper products for one night with y'all is like $1,000, $1,500. The way y'all you students go through toilet paper that I'm providing, make money. I got to get out of Conyers, Jesus. Anyway, I got to go. Even one day, Eric Lee, that pastors Springfield there now, he called me. He said, "Let me ask you." He said, "Do you charge?" Like, New Birth charged minimum of $10,000 to use their building. And he said, "Do you charge?" I said, "No, we've never charged any of these high schools." He said, "Well, I just want to write a piece about you because I'm reading all this stuff that people are saying about you I didn't think was true." I said, "No, not only have we not charged, we lose money on it. That's like a gift I give to the community." But this week I was like, glad my name ain't Harvey. Glad my name ain't Joel. You know how Paul said, give no place to the devil? Like, when I had the biggest vehicle of all my friends, I was the one with the van or the SUV. I was always the one that had to drive. Well, you got the biggest car, and you know how it is if you got a truck. Everybody's going to call you, "Hey, can you help us move next week?" If you don't want to be called to help move, don't get a truck. Get you something with no back seat in it. Go, oh, man, I'd love to help out, but I got no place. Because if you make a place, if you're the one in the family with the guest room, guess what? That's where the family's going to stay. Where I live, it's actually it's like a loft. It's all one space, and there's a platform. I had a platform built up that's sort of like a bedroom. It's got like a half wall around it, but it's basically one big area. So when friends of mine have said, I'm coming to Atlanta, I'm going to sleep on your couch, I'm like, no, not really, because it's kind of weird. It's not like, you kind of like to be sleeping with us, and we really don't like you like that. So, but we're real close to every hotel in Atlanta. Walking distance. I can hook you up. But that's kind of the way it is emotionally. If you have room for things fill up those rooms. So there is something to be said for letting go, and there is something to be said for addressing stuff and trying to figure out this is why you are this way. Which is the answer? It's both things. If there is such a thing as walking in the Spirit, then I would say this is what a Spirit walk should do for you. It lets you know when to hold on and lets you know when to let go. When I talk about letting go, this is what I'm thinking of. And I'm very sensitive to words right now. You know how like a safe cracker will file their fingertips way down so that their touch is very, very sensitive, so that when they're trying to figure out one of those combination codes, this is kind of old school, but they can feel just the most nuanced little, just the tiniest little ripple or whatever. I kind of feel that way about words. Like somebody will say a word, not in a bad way, but like in a good way. Like somebody will say a word and that phrase really stays with me. One day this week, when I post several things at once, they're not necessarily about me. They're just thoughts that I'm thinking that may be responding to conversations I've just had or things I've read online. That I just, the pastoral gift in me just wants to, I've learned not to overthink it. Like if I want to say something, I just put it out there. And when I'm in that zone, there's always a bunch of people who are like, oh my God, I need to hear this right now. And some things are just sort of universally true at all times. But I posted something about, which I've posted before, about it's a waste of time to keep waiting for an apology that's not going to come. The reason that figures into what we're talking about today and how the way we're going to do the meditation is if you have some unresolved issue with somebody, you might project that energy on other relationships when it's not really about them. It's about still waiting for that person to say I'm sorry or whatever, say I love you or whatever. And there comes a time where you just have to say they're not ever going to see it that way. I'm wasting time by waiting for a resolution of this issue. So when I posted that, a lot of people were posting things, and Rutherford posts, most times he tries to be funny, and I end up deleting a good bit of what he posts. Like, dear Lord, Robert, delete. But on this one, he said, his exact words were, I am through with the forgiveness game. I don't owe anybody forgiveness, and nobody needs to forgive me. I don't know if he said free at last or something like that. And there was something about the way he phrased, I'm through with the forgiveness game. I was like, that's very next level. I'm not saying that you shouldn't apologize when you've hurt somebody or something, but I do believe there should come a time in a relationship where trust has come to a point where you're not having to just resolve stuff all the time. I don't think this is rocket science. If you're in a relationship where you break up every 2 or 3 weeks, you probably ought not to be together. Do you know what I mean? If it's that, I'm not saying relationships don't require effort, but if it's too hard, you need to say, look, you're a wonderful person, and maybe I love you, maybe I'm in love with you, but this is, whatever our chemistry is, it's too hard, life's too short. You go find some peace, let me find some peace, and if that peace is me being alone, then fine, I'll be alone and peaceful, but let's not do this, because I think people get addicted to this weird like they're always in conflict all the time. I don't get it. I don't. That stresses me out. I don't want to be in a relationship with somebody that every time their number comes up on the phone, your stomach fills up with acid, and you're like, oh, crap, what is this? Because you know it ain't going to be good. Somebody's got an issue. And again, of course there are things you've got to work out, but I can tell you this, those of us who have made a few revolutions around the sun and have been in a relation, I mean, this is, we took a walk yesterday, and I said, this is our sixth fall together. We love some fall. And we've had some great fall. This one's going to be a little different because we're not going to be as mobile this year. But as you get older, there's a lot of stuff that's not worth, stuff that would have just been like deal breakers when you were younger. When you get older, you're like, it just changes your perspective on things. As you get older, hopefully, you look at your parents differently. I look at my parents and I see them with a kind of compassion now at nearly age 60 that I don't think I could have seen at 30 or 40. I mean, I see and if they're streaming, I don't mean to be offensive, but I see them dealing with mortality. And I see the, legitimate things like fear and whatever, and, how's it going to end up and that kind of stuff. And even though there's a part of me that always says, note to self, this isn't going to happen to you, I also am compassionate to say, you know what, they're people who are grappling with life and death issues and pain and that kind of stuff, and I've got to be compassionate. I got to let them say their stuff. I got to let them, do their thing, and it's like it's just compassion. He called his dad last night, and his dad he got his dad a new not a cell phone, but just like a phone that's exactly like the one he had before, but his dad can't figure it out, and he keeps explaining it to him, and he walked him through it several times, and by the time his handshake, and by the time he hits the thing, the operator comes on. I said, he's got a mental block about this phone. You're gonna have to get him a different one, because in his mind, he's thinking, I can't operate this phone, and you're gonna keep saying this to him over and over again, and in his 84-year-old mind, it's new technology. He can't deal with it. So it's a part of not growing older, but a part of growing up, where you really learn to choose your battles. And there are a lot of things you'd like to be resolved in your life, but there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you just let go. And one thing I believe about eternal life, because I don't think we die. I think when you've used this body enough, there comes a time where you lay this body down and you go on to I don't necessarily believe in reincarnation, but you go on to the next thing, wherever God is. I do believe in afterlife, but I'd love to tell you that everything's going to get fixed on this side, but I don't think that it necessarily does. And I think there's some things that, like when Paul said in 1 Corinthians 13, he said, we know in part, we prophesy in part, but when that which is perfect is come, then that which is in part will be done away. And there are some things you will have time and place on the other side to get resolved. Like in my maternal grandfather, I heard him say it my whole life, that he wants to sit down by the river of life with Addie Mae and talk it over. That was his idea of heaven, that they would sit by a river somewhere. And there's kind of a truth to that. Like, my ideas of heaven aren't really conventional, but I do like the idea of getting to the other side and working some stuff out that when you were on this side, you had too much pride and emotion and unfinished business. Now, best case scenario is that you do make peace with everything. Even if you can't get everybody to make peace with you, that you've made peace with them. Like I can look back at 30 years at Church of the Now, and I think, you know what? Let me tell you, because Lord knows people have come and gone out of my life. But I think, well, some of it, yeah, I was over the top. I was full of myself. I said stuff that I probably shouldn't have said. And some people weren't mature enough to decipher the personality of me and my gift. So, yeah, some of it was me, but some of it was other people that were just way too immature and had high expectations of pastors that nobody could meet. So some of it was me, some of it was them. It just was what it was. There's something about that. I don't know. Maybe meditation has made me too peaceful. But even stuff that people write on Facebook that I don't even necessarily agree with, there's a part of me that says, I don't see it that way, but I can see why you do. If that's your perception, I see it. Can I get really real with y'all? Like some white people were just horrified at Black Lives Matter. First time I read those 3 words, I thought, oh, I got it. Black Lives Matter. They're not saying Black Lives Matter more. They're not saying white lives don't matter. They're just saying Black Lives Matter. You don't need to say Black Lives Matter too. Just Black Lives Matter. I got it. I didn't understand why people that came from Europe, like my ancestors did, why does that upset you so much? I don't get it. Like, what are you upset about? And then when people write about a lot of even minister friends of mine, write about white privilege, I'm like, yeah, we live in a culture where there is white privilege. I didn't invent it, and I don't know that I've ever exploited it at the expense of somebody else, but yeah, it probably exists on some level that I'm not even aware of. So I can understand if I were a man of color, I'd be much more conscious of it. And some people freak out that I'm that candid about it. I'm like, well, yeah. If I were a black man, I'd be pretty angry too. Like, I'm not shocked when friends of mine post certain things. I go, well, and then they'll write on me like, I love you. And I'm like, well, I'm white because everything else you've posted. Of course, I've always kind of been outside the lines on color. Like, I've been in a good bit of the time, I'm the only white guy in the room, like in ministers' meetings, or I just am. And like the guys I used to work out with at Conyers, I was the only white guy, and they would say stuff about white people. Like, I'll tell you what I hate about white people. I'm like, excuse me, y'all know I'm white. Like, yeah, we're not about you. We're talking about all the rest of them. I'm like, okay, just wanted to remind y'all. Blue-eyed devil here, I've had so many people say, oh, we don't even think of you as white. I'm like, okay, well then, good. I guess that worked good for me. But I understand why, instead of just wanting to go to war with everybody, I think, well, I get it. I get it. Oh, did I get too real just then? Oh, did the vibe get weird? Like, even with all the Confederate stuff going on right now, like I understand why white Southern people who grew up. White people don't listen for a minute. Let me talk to white people. This is how a lot of white people who say that they think it's they're not historians. This is in their mind what they think. I'm going to tell you this. Nobody knows this but me. I'm going to tell you. It's like having a relative that did horrible stuff that you're embarrassed about and you can't defend, but there's something in you that wants to defend it to everybody else. It's like, we know Uncle So-and-so was a child molester, but, like there's some weird something in them that makes them want to defend it. Did I get too weird? Okay. And now black people don't listen. Let me talk to white people. Let me explain white people who think holding on to, I'm not even talking about the flag, I'm talking about like statues, that kind of thing. Let me tell you why that has to be dealt with. I love Stone Mountain. I love, I don't know what they would do with Stone. That's the side of the mountain. It's the largest relief carving in the world. And in Stone Mountain's defense, they've been as proactive about it as they can be, because when you look at the laser show, how the 3 guys on the horses come to life, and they take the sword and they break it over there, and then the 2 pieces of the sword become the United States coming back together. So they've, the management there today had nothing to do with that being commissioned back in the early part of the last century, and they've tried to make it. And every time I go to Stone Mountain, like, half the people there are people of color, and they seem to they seem to be having a good time. So I'm like, well, I guess we've all figured out a way to get our head around it. Black people, you're not supposed to be listening right now. Don't listen. Y'all get on your phone or something. But this is what I want to explain to sweet white country people that don't know better. Let me tell you why people have an issue with those. It would be like, and I'm getting to the meditation, just hang on. It would be like if you were married to somebody and they left you for somebody else, but then they realized they made a horrible mistake and they got back with you and asked for your forgiveness, and you took them back, and maybe you'd all gone through a divorce, maybe they'd already married the other person. Then they come back and you forgive them and get remarried, but they bring all these pictures of the other person and put it all over the house and say, I don't have any affection for them, it's just history. I know I shouldn't have left you, and I don't love them anymore, but it's about history, so I just got to keep my history. Do you understand? All right, now black and white people can listen together. Now, that's the part, and I'm not saying, believe me, I'm not saying there's good Nazis. I'm not saying any of that kind. My own son, because of stupid punk rock, he's got his own issues going right now because of a T-shirt. He got his picture taken in, and I'm like, that's not funny. You should have known better, and I don't know how you're going to get yourself out of this one because God already delivered you once before from doing something really, really stupid, and you're a big grown man right now. You got to figure this one out, and it's crazy. What let me tell you why I'm meditating. Between my children and my parents, we're doing a 4-hour meditation today. Romanita was always going through her purse looking for a joint for us. I've never smoked one. I'm not saying she smoked. She was going to try to find me one. I've never smoked one before, but it's organic. That's what y'all got. You know what Bishop said? We should light up. No, it should not say that. I don't know. I'm just saying I've never done it, but I understand why you do. It's all that understanding piece. Of course, the guys that lived across the hall from me have moved out now. We used to keep a contact high all the time. Just by the time it took me to get my key in the door, I'm like, wow, I'm kind of hungry. And my eyesight is suddenly better. Say what? How do you know about that? Mm-hmm. I don't know nothing about no shotgun. Jesus help us. Anyway, do you understand what I'm saying? I'm not. Lord help us. You people that are coming in late, you might want to turn around. You might know before you get involved, you might know what to hear what's going on in here. I'm just kidding. Anyway, do you understand what I'm saying? There's some things, even if you can't validate the point, you understand why if I were that person and came from where they came from, I would probably see it that way too. Doesn't mean I'm going to agree with them. It helps me coexist with you and understand, oh, that's why you see that. See, that's kind of the big issues. Like, people don't take time because they think trying to understand why somebody sees it that way, they think that's validating their point. No, it's not. There's some people, I understand why they see what they see, but I'm never going to agree with them. And this is why I want to I'm going to say this one more thing, and then I'm going to move back to what I'm talking about here. Free speech is great, and I like the fact that we live in a world where people can express their viewpoints. But I want to say to all the people that do nonstop political posts on social media, you're not changing anybody's mind on either side. All you're doing is increasing tribalism and making people double down more. Because I know for me, if somebody says something that's politically not what I believe, I don't unfriend them, but I unfollow them. I just like, I don't want to look at that, and I unfollow them. So I don't read to say, maybe you should broaden my horizons, because I already think I know what you think, and I've read your stuff before, and I ain't got time for that, So it may feel good to you to vent, but if you think you're winning hearts and minds on either side, I'm telling you, you are not. I have not met one person who has said, I read some posts that somebody posted about the other political side, and it made a heck of a lot of sense, and I said I'm switching political parties. I haven't heard any of that. All I've heard is people saying, I unfriended and blocked 50 people today. There's I won't say his name, but there's a guy that I'm Facebook friends with that to me writes the sweetest, like he considers himself an atheist, but he says, if I came to Atlanta, I would go to your church, and he just yesterday he said, can I call you please? He wanted to give to a charity. He couldn't decide which one to give to, and so I gave him some ideas, and whatever. Just really, really good heart. Then I go on and look on his page, and I'm like, sweet Jesus. Like, how could you, like, I even told him, I said, your language on your page is kind of colorful. I mean, the guy that I talk to just thinks I'm the great, like I was going back reading stuff he'd written to me back in 2010, like, you're like a superhero to me, and, and then this political stuff he writes, I'm like, wow, that's pretty extreme. I think maybe it's a generational thing. He's a young guy, and that's the way they talk. So I'm trying to understand everybody, trying to be a bridge builder. Let me tell you something. Bridge building these days ain't so easy. Because a lot of bridge burners out there now. So us bridge builders sometimes kind of feel like an endangered species where you're trying to bring people together and, all that kind of stuff. Anyway, what's that got to do with letting go and the making, dealing with your unfinished business? Let me go ahead and give you this is what they call burying the lead. Let me go ahead and give you the point of this teaching at the beginning of the month. If it's something that's constantly affecting your life in a negative way, then dig into it and find out what the heck's going on. Why am I angry? Why am I reacting to this? Why am I, why? Why am I defensive over stuff? Like even reading the stuff people were writing about Joel Osteen this week, I thought there's a perception that people have about ministers who are successful and have made money that if you have that perception, there's not enough arguing in the world that's going to change that. That's the way you see that. And people are just wasting their energy trying to defend something like that. And I remember one time when we had Church of the Now, I was driving down I-20, and it was right at a time when I was just getting a lot of just crazy stuff from people and just crazy stuff. Like we opened our house for the tour of homes a couple of times, and that opened up so much crazy stuff. The stuff that people interpreted, like why does he have so much black in his house? Just I didn't see any crosses, and just like just crazy stuff. I'm like, I got to get out of this town, Jesus. Anyway, and I was driving, I looked over at the church, and I kind of looked at it objectively, and I thought, I can see why people that grew up in a small town, even though this is a part of Metro Atlanta, this is a small town, it's a small town mentality, and if your idea of church is First Baptist with a steeple and whatever, I can understand how you look at this and you can't comprehend it. You don't understand it. You don't understand, like for instance, the way denominations work. If you're Baptist and you grow up in a town, you go to the Baptist church. It doesn't matter whether you like it or not. It doesn't matter if you like the pastor or not. You're Baptist, you go to the Baptist church. If you're a Methodist, you go to the Methodist church. It's a no-brainer. You don't even think about whether you like the church or not. That's what you do. What is it? Baptist born and Baptist bred. I'll be Baptist when I'm dead. That whole stuff. People said that for years. Well, a church like ours, and even for that matter with Metron, it's like you're not from a community where you all grew up together. Like when Ken's mom passed away, within an hour, the kitchen was filled with casseroles and stuff because those people grew up. She worked at the school. They all knew each other. that was before Facebook, but that, word traveled that quick. Nobody had to say, would somebody bring food or whatever. When I had a big mega church, the only thing people had in common was basically me. We don't know each other. We didn't grow up here. People moved to Conyers because of the church, so that if there was a death in the family, people didn't show up because they don't know you. It's like people would say, well, nobody came to the funeral. Well, they didn't grow up with you. They don't know you. You're the person that sits on the other side of the congregation that I had to explain. It's that guy that has, they're really sweet people. But they don't know you. They don't even know where you live. It's just a different, like when I was growing up, the churches my dad pastored in small towns, we probably ate at people's homes 4 nights a week. That's what you did. You invited the preacher over, and everybody lived close by. Everybody knew everybody. I don't even know where my staff lived. All those years, I never went. I think I went to the Jarvis's house once. I think I've been to Avery's house once. I mean, it's just a different, people live all over it's just different. You have to discern different world that you live in. You also have to discern, where am I in my life? If this is something that's negatively affecting me and just causing me trouble, then I need to figure it out. If it's something that's just a part of my life, then I'm going to have to let it go and not. If you got a brother or a sister that they're a certain way, at some point you're just going to have to understand this is the way they are. There's no point in me having this same conversation that I've had with family members a zillion times. Like even with my kids, it was funny. We just finished up the August birthdays, finally, with Judah the other night, because everybody's in August. And I'm the one that takes everybody out. So let's just say, if you have any cash today, I need you to give it to me, actually. Usually I say, pay it forward. No, I actually need you to give it to me today. If you have anything. As a matter of fact, I'm about to pad you down right now and see what you got. But typically, when I take my kids out, Christina's the one that's usually chronically late. Well, I took, what are their names? Jonah and Jared out together. Like it was an honor both, because Jonas is on the 4th, Jared's is on the 8th, and Jared was leaving the country, so we were just going to do the two of them. We'll do Judah's later, and my dad's later. Well, Christina was there on time, and she sat down and said, Christina, you're totally messing this is what we do. We usually talk about you for half an hour before you get here, telling stories about when you were late. Why is she always late? I said, you're messing with our mojo, because usually this is what we do till you get here. And now she's on time for everything. Like since I said that, everything we've done lately, she's on time. And I'm like, well, you're not doing it right. This is the part where like, well, of course she's not here. But every family's like that. Everybody's you've had that conversation about Uncle so-and-so or Granny so-and-so. You've had it 10 million times, and it ain't changing nothing. And at some point you have to say, hey, you know what? That's the way they are. And I've got to learn a way. It's like, I'm not calling your sibling Satan, but it's like when Jesus said, Satan is coming, but there's nothing in me. You have to figure out a way. I can't let you get inside my head, and I have to appreciate you for what you are. There are certain things, you're not going to be this way. Let me tell you this, and it's taken about 45 years of ministry to finally admit this out loud. People rarely, if ever, change. I know we want to think they do, but you kind of are who you are. And the best you're going to do is learn to play to your strengths and look for relationships in your life that will be with people who are strong in areas where you're weak, because you just are who you are. And I'm not saying that you can't evolve, but the evolution will be you becoming a better version of you. And the sooner you make peace with that, the sooner you make peace with the other people in your life, you realize that this is just how they are. And there's no point in me going through this same cycle with them over and over and over again, because if anything, the words that you keep speaking about them are part of the problem. I've even realized this about my kids. Even this thing I'm going through with Jared right now, I've realized me worrying about them is counterproductive, because I think my thoughts are so strong. I have such creative ability that if I lay awake and worry about them, because even though they're adults, you can't help but say, what have they gotten themselves into now? But I think, no, I'm going to have to let it go. I'm going to let them go and just believe they're going to figure it out. You say, well, you believe God's got them? Yeah, I believe God's got them, but I also believe they have to figure it out. Can I just say this? I've nearly posted this several times lately, and I think I'm probably going to this week. I keep seeing people on Facebook using Jeremiah 29:11. Well, I know the plans I have for you. It's my favorite scripture. I understand it. I like that scripture too, but if you read it in context, it was God telling Israel that they were about to go into 70 years of slavery. And he says, but I know the plans I have for you. In other words, I'm going to get you through these 70 years. So if God says to you, I know the plans I have for you, you better go, rut-row. That doesn't sound good. So what I want to say to people, I'm not saying God doesn't, I many times when somebody texts me, they're going through something, I will text them and say, God's got you. And it feels good to say, but I also want to say, I'm not saying God doesn't have a plan, but you're kind of wasting time. You keep saying, I know what God's doing, but God's up to something. You might need to get a plan. And then whoever God is, he, she, it will bless that plan. You decree a thing, it'll be established unto you. But this idea of, I know Ephesians 3:20, more than you can ask or think. But he will do more than you can ask or think according to the power that works in you. In other words, if you're not doing something to stimulate it, activate it, if you're not finding a catalyst for it, God's not going to change anything for you. And I want to say that in a way without taking God away from people, because I don't want to take their hope away. But what I want to do is say, you have the power. You have the power in your life. Prayer is wonderful, but there's something equally powerful when somebody in your life that you have confidence in, who you have confidence in, looks at you and says, you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this, and I'm going to walk with you through it. That, is it just me, or that actually sounds, that's more strengthening to me than somebody saying, we're praying for you. Because I don't know how much people really do. You read somebody online, mama died, our prayers are with you. You're probably not really praying for them. What really matters, it's a good thing to say. I'm not telling you not to say it. I'm just saying that's probably not what's really happened. What really works is the people in your life going, I want you to hold on. I want you to want to live. I want to give you a reason to live. I need you to get better. You know what I mean? It's like prayer sometimes seems it's like this panacea that at some point you have to look and say, well, how many things have I prayed for that have actually happened? What are the things that have really happened? The things that have really happened are things that I put an intention to, that I really put energy on and felt strongly. I've said this to you a million times, but it's like, the joke about the farmer. He said, I grew this garden, and somebody said, you didn't grow that garden, God grew that garden. He says, yeah, well, you should have seen what it looked like when God had it by himself. And that's kind of the way life is. It's great that you trust a higher power. I like to keep a Jesus take the wheel clause myself. Because sometimes you just feel overwhelmed and you just need to call his name. But there are other times where you go, this isn't going to get better till I do something about this. And making a decision is like driving a stake in the ground. I am deciding I'm going to live and not die. I am deciding I am not going to live in strife with this person. I am deciding, I am making a decision, and the people and things around me will respond to the strength of that decision. Let me show you these two more things, and then we're going to flow into the meditation. I'll explain to you how we're going to do it today. This is Hebrews 4:10-11. It's in the Message, and it's I think Paul probably wrote Hebrews, but he's talking about ceasing from your labors to save yourself and trusting the work of Jesus. But what he says, in the King James, he says the phrase, let us labor to enter into that rest. Here he says, the promise of arrival and rest is still there for God's people. God himself is at rest. And at the end of the journey, we'll surely rest with God. So let's keep at it and eventually arrive at the place of rest. This scripture kind of encapsulates what I'm talking about, letting go, but also facing it. If you go on vacation, there's a lot of work that goes into going on a vacation. You know what I mean? You don't just, like if you got stuff, you don't just get in the car and go. If you're going to go on vacation, you got to make plans. You got to call people. Who's going to feed the dog? Who's going to water the plants? Who's going to pick up the kids? I'm not answering my email. You're like, there's a lot of, like, you don't just relax. You work to relax. That's why when you get there, you're like, I'm getting mine because I worked hard. And then when you get back, there's a lot of work you got to catch up on. Like, I hope it was worth me going out of town for 2 weeks because the stuff I got to do now, it's made my workload. I mean, you got to really think about it. Is it, honestly, that's one reason we do so many like little day trips, because there's not that much that has to go in. There's not that much planning that has to go into it. Is because if it's a long, especially if it's like overseas or something, you gotta make, there's some work to it. I mean, if you're young like Jeff and Marty, you can do it. Last time I went to international, I'm not saying I'll never do international travel again, but you got to really want to do it, because you don't, do you know what I mean? It's like running and deadlines and passports, and I mean, it's worth it if that's what you want to do, but it ain't, you got to work before you relax. People ask me, why do y'all take the train so much? You know why? Because the train station is around the corner from my house. I don't have to go through security. It only goes, you can't go other places. You got to go like to Washington, D.C. or New York or something. It's going to take you all night to get there. It's worth it to me because I don't want to drive to the airport and run through I like to get it leaves at 8 o'clock. If you don't make it by 8 o'clock, you ain't going. Some people say it takes too long to get there. Then fine, go to the airport. You can get there in no time. For me, I like to get in there, go have something to eat, get a little drink, go to sleep, wake up. Where are we? Okay. Last time we went on a sleeper car, and you was like you're like asleep, and you go, the train's like, where are we? Oh, we're in Lynchburg. Okay. That's not everybody's idea of a good time, and you can't go to Russia on a train. If you want to go to Russia, you got to want to go. I'm not saying you should. That's a trip of a lifetime. I've already been to a lot of places. If I go any other places, it's because I want to show Ken. It's not because I want to, you know what? I got a big screen, high definition television, and on those travel channels, they take you. I'm like, it's kind of like being there, and I didn't have to. Like my screen is so big. I'm like, I'm gonna pull this chair up and let's see. I'm going down the canals of Venice. Oh, that was good. I feel really refreshed. I don't even have jet lag. Now, I'm not against travel. I've just done a lot of it. That's all I'm saying. Did I have one more quote? By this, let me give you one Eastern quote. I like this. As gold purified in a furnace loses its impurities and achieves its own true nature, the mind gets rid of impurities of the attributes of delusion, attachment, and purity through meditation and attains reality. This is my connecting point to especially today's meditation and really what we're going to do for the rest of the month. Let me explain what we're going to do. And I'll walk you through it. This one, I think we're going to do about a 10-minute meditation on this one. I'm not against prayer at all. I think prayer serves its purpose, and I can tell you great stories of things that have happened as a result of prayer. I also believe that if you can remove certain thoughts that are working against you, the prayer nearly becomes obsolete. In other words, it's like the situation will just naturally take care of itself. I believe the body wants to heal itself. I was reading this week, Dr. Dispenza was right. He was showing a link. Now, this isn't somebody that just meditated a couple of times and then didn't have cancer anymore. It's not that cut and dry. This is people that are very devoted, not like meditation, yoga, tai chi, these kind of things, who have actually changed their genetic destiny. I mean, they've, like, things that have been in their family for years, they don't find evidence of it anymore. So I'm not saying I'm not going to pray for your heart condition. What I'm saying is, in addition to that, let's remove attachments to things that may be preventing our heart from healing itself. You understand what I'm saying? And that's where I don't think meditation needs to replace prayer, but I think that it's a very necessary addition. That if, and this is kind of the way I feel about everything. You can say this is idealistic or Pollyanna-ish or whatever, but with everything I see happening in the world, I feel optimistic. I think things sometimes have to get worse before they get better, even with race relations, everything. It's like, well, sometimes it is the darkest before the dawn. I mean, that is what happens. Bishop Flunder posted something I thought was interesting. She said, she's talking about the stuff going on. She says, God's not angry, Mother Nature is. And I thought, well, now that's an interesting insight. So I feel like if people could remove, this is the part that's letting go. People could remove the things that are working against them, like stress. Even what Zach talked about last week. You know, if you come from an evolution standpoint, you know, what they say is that we were wired to have stress happen to us quickly and then be over with. Like if a lion was chasing you, you were stressed out, it kicked in your adrenaline, and then you moved on from it. Now we've developed a world where we live in stress for years. I guarantee you so much of you think about all the diseases that have happened just in my lifetime. When I was a kid, I didn't hear about kids having autism. You didn't hear about, you'd say an old person was senile. You never heard Alzheimer's. Obviously, you didn't hear about AIDS. I mean, there was like all these, and it's like every year there's something new. Now it's, I don't even want to say their names. I'm just saying that our environment has become so toxic that the prayer it's like we're working against the prayer. I'm not saying meditation is going to fix all that, but it can help. So this is how we're going to meditate today. In a minute, BJ, you've got the music, right? In a minute, we'll start that. I don't think anybody's going to be coming in this late, so it's probably a non-issue, Wellington, but just watch the door. Let's bring the lights down. Most of you are pretty adept at this, so I don't have to over-explain it to you. Some of you have already been doing this. But a few things. If you put both feet on the floor, sit up as straight as you can. There's something very empowering about straightening your spine as much as you can. It just automatically sort of gets things in line. You don't have to close your eyes, but you probably want to. Hang on. The main thing to be aware of is your breathing. Meditation is very much about breathing. So there's no right way to do it. My preferred way is to inhale through your nostrils, hold it for a couple of seconds, then exhale through your mouth. I won't go into a lot of detail why that's preferable, but a lot of people agree with that. If you can do that, you're not trying to specifically think of anything. As a matter of fact, the less you think of, the better. That's the point. And this is how it connects to letting go and dealing with. This is a way of dealing with unfinished business. I believe you're going to hear what I'm about to say with this, but when you exhale for these next 10 minutes, I want you to, when something comes to your mind that's a negative thing that needs to be out of your life, I want you to exhale it. I'm not saying that it's never going to happen to you again, but I want you to get it. If it's stress, if it's worry, if it's whatever, I want you to exhale it, okay? So go ahead and start the music, and let's. Nobody's going to be taking any pictures during this, and nobody's going to photograph you. You can listen to my voice, but probably what's going to happen in the next couple of minutes is you'll just stop hearing my voice, and that's what I want. I want you to get to a place where you're just inside your own space. It's not going to take you long to enter in, but let's go ahead and inhale. Hold it for a couple of seconds. Exhale through your mouth. Let's inhale. Hold it. Exhale through your mouth. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale through your mouth. I don't want you to specifically try to think of something that you want to exhale, but if it just comes up in you, inhale it. Exhale stress. Inhale. Exhale anxiety. Inhale peace. Hold it. Exhale worry. Inhale health. Exhale sickness. Keep your spinal column as still as you can. Just be aware of your breathing. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale rejection, hurt feelings, anger, resentment, bitterness, any of these things. Some things aren't going to be resolved. You just need to make peace with them and exhale the negative energy that comes from it. This is how you break the addiction to a negative feeling. Inhale. Hold it. Exhale. Inhale. You're not thinking of anything. If your thoughts want to go somewhere else, just gently bring them back in. It's no struggle. You're in charge. Settle your emotions down. Inhale serenity. Hold it. Exhale drama. All right, you just slowly come out of it. Do you have another one back there? Do you have that shorter one? If you don't have it, it's fine, because that 10-minute one was good. Huh? Find that one that's a little bit shorter than that one. Let's do one more, because that one was really good. I felt the air get a little clearer. Did with me. Y'all just stay where you are. Let's do one more, a little shorter one. While you're still here, you're still there. You didn't leave the peace or the tranquility. Keep breathing. It's all about the breathing. The words spirit and breath are used interchangeably. God created through breath. Jesus breathed on his disciples. The Holy Spirit in the Greek is called the breath effect. Spirit is about breath. Inhale, hold it. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. Inhale. Exhale negativity. And you're not just exhaling it out of your lungs. It's leaving your muscles. It's leaving your organs. It's leaving your bones. Just the life is what's there. When you remove the other stuff, that's going to take you to a better place. Not just spiritually, but physically. Keep breathing. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Peace. light, strength, spirit, wholeness, health, wellness, peace of mind, inhale, exhale. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Beautiful. All right. When you're ready, you can come out of it. It was good. Very good. You can bring the lights back up. Whew, that was good. I needed that myself. It's good. Do you understand the piece about removing the obstructions so that the God in you takes care of the other stuff, the emotional stuff, the physical stuff? All your body wants to be well. Your mind wants to be positive. You know that's what you're prone to do. So when you remove that other stuff, it's like becoming who you really are. Good, good, good. Let's all stand. Y'all get so relaxed you can't stand up. That's good. You can stretch a little bit. It's good for you. Oh, yeah. Something happens when it's all of us doing it together. I'm amazed at how fast it goes. Like 10 minutes on an elliptical it's forever. You know, you're like, really? I've only done 2 minutes? That goes by like that. Beautiful. Beautiful. Well done. Well done. Let's run this for the YouTube audience. And then
Contributing to Metron is quick and easy. Simply text the amount you would like to give to 404-620-5044. And now you can give anytime by texting this number. You will then receive a one-time registration form that links your phone number and opens your account at SimpleGive. Complete the form and you will then receive a successful registration and donation page. For additional information on your account, visit bishanthenow.com and click the Support tab. Then, My Online Donation. When you contribute to Metron, you're also supporting the charity or organization of the month. Thank you for your investment in Metron.
outreach this month is the hurricane victims in Houston. If you have a check, make it to JESM. If you have cash, I already told you, I'll meet you up front. I love you all very, very much. Something really good just happened there again. It's different every week, but it's like that was good. That was very, very good. So I want you to take that. God's with you. God's in you. God's flowing with you. God's moving with you. Yeah. Thank you. The year of living your best life this month is be connected, and it's about relationships. What I'd like you to do is, if it's like somebody you haven't talked to in a long time, or some connection you need to make, this is a catalyst. Like if somebody that's been on your mind, you think, I'd like to call them, but I don't know. Use this. Call and say, we're doing a thing. Our challenge this month is to be connected. We haven't seen you in a long time. We want to reach out. So this will be easy to photograph, unlike some of the more abstract ideas. So thanks for reminding me of that, Avery. So as I was saying, God's with you. God's in you. God's flowing through you. Oh, man, just that. What is that just happened in meditation? It's a realization that everything's fine, everything's good. I mean, am I the only one in the room that feels that? No, you feel that? It's like it's like it's all good. Everybody's gonna be fine. He just showed me a text. My mom got a prescription. She's gonna be fine. It's like it's all good. You're gonna have a beautiful week. You're gonna sleep well tonight. Our plans have changed for Labor Day, but we're still going to have a great one. We're going to figure out what Plan B is, and it's going to be great. Whatever you're doing, it's just going to enjoy your life. Enjoy your life. If there's stuff in your life it's not bringing you happiness, you're out. What do you say? If you walk around and you touch everything in your house, if it doesn't give you joy, what do you do with it? You thank it for what it brought into your life, and then you take it to goodwill, or what? Yeah, I like it. Go through your closet and that stuff that you can't fit into anymore that depresses you. You just say, tight shirt, it's bringing me down. You know how it is when you put that one big one on that's filled, it doesn't cling too much. You're like, I'm so happy when I wear this shirt. That's the one you need to wear. Get rid of all that other nonsense. God bless you. Go in peace. Angel of the Lord encamps round about you to keep you in all your ways.